ashes of Earth. The stars above Earth burned with fire. The Dravari Dominion came without warning. One moment, the skies were filled with the shimmering beauty of Earth's orbital stations. The next, they were torn apart by lances of alien energy. Cities were reduced to craters. Oceans boiled, and the once proud fleets of humanity were shattered within hours. The enemy was merciless. Their ships blotted out the sun, colossal engines of war forged over millennia of conquest. Against them, Earth's defense fleet, newborn in comparison, was nothing more than kindling before a storm. Admiral Renard's flagship Soul's Wrath fought valiantly, tearing down 3 enemy destroyers, but was drowned beneath the fire of 1,000 guns. On the ground, people screamed as towers collapsed into dust. Families rushed into bunkers that offered no protection. The alien bombardment was not aimed at conquest. It was aimed at eradication. The Dravari did not come to enslave Earth. They came to erase it. In the chaos, a few ships managed to escape. Colony transports, freighters, mining vessels. Anything that could launch was crammed with survivors. Most never made it beyond the orbiting blockade, cut down before reaching the stars. But some did. They scattered into the void, fleeing to forgotten outposts and abandoned colonies. Humanity did not die that day, but it came closer than ever before. Captain Eric Valen was aboard the Aurora's Spear, a battered corvette limping away from the burning cradle of humanity. His hands trembled as he watched Earth's final moments through the viewport. Blue oceans turned to clouds of steam. Continents split apart under the rain of alien fire. The world that birthed billions was reduced to ash in less than a day. His crew was silent. Soldiers, engineers, civilians, people who had no choice but to run. Some wept quietly. Others stared in numb disbelief. For a long time, none dared to speak. What words could survive the death of a world? Finally, Eric broke the silence. "They think this is the end," he said, his voice rough with grief. "They think we'll be forgotten. They are wrong. As long as one of us survives, humanity survives." And one day, he clenched his fists, his eyes burning with the same fire that consumed Earth. "One day we'll make them pay." The Aurora's spear slipped into the shadows of deep space, vanishing into the endless dark. Behind it, Earth burned. But in the void of defeat, something was born, not surrender, not despair, but vengeance, the shadows of survival. The galaxy thought humanity was finished. The Dravari Dominion believed they had crushed us so thoroughly that no remnant could ever rise again. To them, Earth was nothing but dust in the void, and its people nothing more than scattered prey. But they underestimated what desperation could forge, the fragments of humanity. In the weeks after Earth's fall, the survivors drifted across space like broken glass, small, jagged pieces scattered in the darkness. Colony ships limped toward abandoned mining outposts. Smugglers ferried refugees to forgotten moons. Crippled warships hid in asteroid belts, silent as tombs. The Aurora's Spear, Captain Eric Valen's corvette, became one of the first beacons of survival. Its crew, once demoralized refugees, began building contact with other human stragglers. Each signal they received was a story of loss. Families torn apart, colonies erased, fleets annihilated. But each message also carried a spark of defiance. On the barren rock of Droska 7, a mining station long abandoned by the Dominion, the survivors gathered. Its tunnels became living quarters. Its ore processors became weapon forges. Its hollow chambers, once filled with silence, now rang with the hammering of engineers turning scrap into weapons. The refugees were no longer just survivors. They were the first seed of resistance. From ashes, weapons. Humanity was weak in numbers, but not in spirit. Engineers tore apart alien wreckage, studying Dravari technology with hungry eyes. Mechanics fused human ingenuity with stolen components, making crude but deadly weapons. Even old civilian ships were retrofitted with armor plating, and railguns ripped from mining drills. Smugglers and outlaws who once lived on the edge of human space became lifelines. They brought food, medicine, fuel, whatever the survivors needed to keep the fires of survival burning. In exchange, they were promised a future where humanity ruled its own destiny again. Every piece of metal, every circuit, every stolen fuel cell was a step closer to fighting back. The first spark. It began with a whisper. A Dravari patrol ship, hunting through the asteroid fields near Droska 7, vanished without a trace. What really happened was this. Captain Eric and his crew had spent weeks setting a trap. They buried explosive charges inside hollow asteroids and lured the patrol ship into range by transmitting faint distress signals. When the alien ship moved in to investigate, the asteroids came alive with fire. The explosion tore through the Dravari vessel, cracking its hull and leaving it adrift. The Aurora's spear swept in, finishing the crippled warship with a barrage of scavenged weapons. It wasn't just a victory. It was a message. For the first time since Earth burned, humanity had drawn blood. Whispers in the dark. The news spread faster than light itself, carried by smugglers, traders, and enslaved laborers across the galaxy. On countless alien worlds, beings long oppressed by the Dominion whispered the same words. The humans are fighting back. To the Dravari, it was nothing, just a nuisance, a spark easily extinguished. But to those living under the Dominion's boot, it was more than that. It was hope. For humanity, it was only the beginning. In the void where Earth once stood, among the ashes of defeat, the first flame of rebellion had been lit. And flames, once born, only grow. Blades in the dark. The Dravari Dominion had ruled the stars for 10,000 years. They crushed empires, enslaved species, and erased civilizations until only silence remained in their wake. To them, humanity was nothing more than another ember snuffed out in the endless void. But embers, when left alone, can ignite a fire. The birth of the resistance. The survivors on Droska 7 were no longer content with hiding. With each raid, with each salvaged ship, they grew bolder. What had begun as scattered stragglers slowly evolved into a network, a resistance built in secrecy. They had no central government, no great fleet, no throne world to call their own. What they had was willpower, ingenuity, and rage sharper than any blade. Eric Valen became one of its leaders, not because he was the strongest, but because he refused to give up when others would have surrendered. His words became a rallying cry. They rule with fear. We will strike from the shadows. Every blow we deliver will remind them, humanity does not kneel. Guerrilla warfare. The first real campaign began in the trade routes of the Outer Rim. Human ships, patched together from scrap and stolen tech, began staging ambushes. A convoy of Dominion supply haulers entered a quiet sector and never returned. Navigation beacons were hacked, sending Dravari warships into asteroid fields where hidden mines awaited. Fuel depots mysteriously exploded, leaving whole fleets stranded. The Dravari were masters of open battle, but against shadows they floundered. Humanity had discovered its strength, not in brute force, but in cunning. For every fleet the Dominion sent, another disappeared without a trace. For every system they tightened their grip on, 3 more slipped into chaos. And all the while, the whisper spread, the humans are hunting them. Allies in chains. On the slave world of Karath 9, an uprising broke out. The enslaved Kethri, a reptilian species broken for centuries, suddenly fought back with weapons that bore human markings. On Vera Prime, the Dominion discovered one of their armories emptied overnight, its stockpile stolen by what they believed were human thieves. A week later, those very weapons appeared in the hands of rebels across the system. Humanity's war was no longer fought alone. Other species, inspired by the impossible idea that the Dominion could bleed, began joining the resistance. What had started as a human fight was quickly becoming a galaxy-wide rebellion, with humans at its core, the prize of vengeance. The boldest strike came when Eric led his crew against a Dravari battleship, an execution vessel known as the Tyrant's Fist. It was a monster ship 3 kilometers long, armed with enough firepower to level entire continents. Against it, the Aurora's spear and 3 ragtag corvettes were gnats before predator. But gnats can still sting. Using stolen access codes, they infiltrated the ship's docking bay under the guise of a Dominion transport. Human Marines stormed aboard, fighting deck by deck in brutal close quarters. They sabotaged engines, hacked weapons, and turned the vessel's own systems against its crew. After 3 days of relentless battle, the impossible happened. The Tyrant's Fist fell into human hands. When the stolen ship emerged from the shadow of the Vera Nebula, painted with the red and black insignia of the new resistance, the galaxy trembled. It was renamed with a single word that carried the weight of Earth's ashes. The Vengeance. The Dominion trembles. For the first time in millennia, the Dominion was afraid. Fleets were rerouted. Admirals argued. The idea that primitives had stolen one of their warships was not just unthinkable. It was a wound to their pride. To them, humanity was no longer a defeated species. We had become blades in the dark, and blades are made to cut the fire of revenge. The galaxy was no longer quiet. For centuries, the Dravari Dominion had ruled with iron chains, their fleets blotting out suns, their banners hanging over enslaved worlds. But now, those banners were burning. What began as whispers of resistance had grown into open flames, and at the heart of it all was a species they thought dead. Humanity. The fleet forged in shadows. The stolen battleship Vengeance became more than a weapon. It became a symbol. Across forgotten colonies and slave worlds, beings of a dozen species pledged themselves to the human cause. Engineers stripped Dravari wreckage for technology. Mechanics welded together hybrid warships, part human ingenuity, part alien salvage. Soon, the shadows birthed something the galaxy hadn't seen in centuries, a fleet that could challenge the Dominion. It wasn't polished. It wasn't orderly. But every ship, from corvettes bristling with scavenged railguns to massive freighters turned into missile platforms, carried the same message. Humanity had returned. The march toward vengeance. Captain Eric Valen stood on the bridge of the Vengeance, staring at the star charts glowing before him. His voice carried not just his crew, but across the entire Resistance fleet. We lost our world. We lost our families. We lost everything they thought defined us. But what they could never take was our will. Tonight, we strike not just for Earth, but for every world that has suffered under their chains. Their target was chosen with purpose. The Dravari High Command Station, the same citadel that had once ordered Earth's destruction. It would not survive the night. The Battle of the High Command. The Dominion fleets gathered, arrogant and sure of victory. Hundreds of warships, gleaming with ancient might, formed a wall of steel and fire around the station. Against them, the Resistance fleet looked pitiful, scavenged, mismatched, and scarred. But the humans did not fight by their rules. Minefields hidden in the asteroid belt tore open the first Dominion line. Saboteurs within the station disabled its shield grid at the exact moment the Vengeance fired its main guns. Resistance ships darted between giants, striking engines, hacking systems, vanishing before counterfire could land. And then came the Allies, Kethri warbeasts charging in stolen carriers, Varen skirmishers launching missile storms, enslaved races rising in revolt across nearby worlds. What began as a battle became a war zone the Dominion could no longer control. On the command deck of the Vengeance, Eric gave the final order: target their command tower, burn it to the ground. The barrage split the Dravari station apart. Towers crumbled, fire consumed its core, and the citadel that once orchestrated the genocide of Earth became nothing more than wreckage drifting in space. The message, as the Dominion fleet collapsed into chaos, the Resistance transmitted a signal across the stars. Every channel, every frequency, every corner of the galaxy heard it. The face of Captain Eric appeared, his uniform torn, his eyes burning with fire. They thought Earth's fall was our end. They believed humanity would vanish into ash. But from a void of defeat, we forge our revenge. To the enslaved, rise. To the oppressors, run. Because humanity does not kneel. Humanity does not forget. And humanity does not forgive. The dawn of a new fire. The Dominion's reign did not end in a single night, but its shadow was broken. Across the stars, rebellions erupted. Entire systems declared themselves free. The unbreakable empire had been broken, and the galaxy would never be the same. And though Earth was gone, its people had carved a place in history forever. For from the ashes of defeat, humanity became fire.